Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another session of life skills. Those skills which they don't teach you in school, but the skills you need to survive as well as thrive in our world. Today, our session is on how you can become a communications ace. I want to start with a story, but this is a very sad story. This is not a very happy story. In 1977, in the island of Tenerife, a very tragic accident happened. A KLM 747 plane crashed into a Pan Am 747 plane. The Pan Am was just landing and the KLM crashed into this as it was on the runway. 583 people died that day. 583. Huge number. Tragic loss of life. And this happened simply due to a communications error. We are communicating all the time. We are born communicating. The first thing we do when we are born, we start crying, yelling for attention. As babies, we don't know how to speak, but we know how to tell people that we are uncomfortable or that we are hungry or that we are sleepy. We are communicating. As babies, as children, as adults, as professionals, we are communicating all the time. But we are still so bad at it. Don't you think so? Because we are bad at communication, we have miscommunications, we have arguments, we have fights with people, we have wars simply because there has been some miscommunication somewhere. So even though we're doing it all the time, we're just not very good at it. But should we despair? Should we give up? No, we don't give up because communication, like many other skills, is a skill and it can be learned. We're not very good at it because communications process is actually very complex. It sounds like the simplest thing. I just have to speak and other people will listen. Well, it's not as simple as that because there are many different elements to the communication process. As a sender, I'm the speaker. I have a message that I want to convey to all of you. And I start to speak. Firstly, I have to make sure that my message is something that's clear and that's interesting to you. I have that in my head. And then I encode it. The process of encoding simply means how am I putting this message across? How am I speaking? What am I saying? That is called encoding. I might be very angry inside, very upset inside. What do I do with it? Do I say, I am very angry? Or do I start throwing things? That's the process of encoding. Both of these are messages. How we communicate it is the process of encoding. Now, this message then has to use a channel to get to the other person. The channel might be face-to-face, or it might be like me talking to you through the power of the internet. It could be on the telephone. It could be a letter. It could be an email. These are all channels. These are all the means of communication. And then when the receiver hears it, when they hear us speak or they read our email, they'll read it, but they'll go through a process of decoding it. They interpret the message, just like you saw in the previous slide where the girl says, oh, your French fries look delicious. And the guy is thinking, she wants my French fries. So she didn't actually say that she wanted the French fries. She just said the French fries are delicious. But the guy thinks, oh, she wants my French fries. That's the process of decoding. So you say something, it goes through a whole lot of other things before it reaches the receiver, the person who's listening to you. And even then, it may not reach them in the right way. This is why communication is so complex because things could go wrong at any of these elements. You might not be able to say what you want to say in the absolute right way. So there might be a problem with the encoding. When you're speaking, maybe the internet breaks down or you don't get a chance to talk face-to-face with somebody, so you send them a WhatsApp and you know that, when you write something in WhatsApp or on Insta, it's read very differently from if you were able to talk to the person. So it could be a barrier there as well. The channel. How is the other person receiving your message could also become a barrier. Maybe they were feeling sad at that time or angry at the time when your message reached you. So you might be writing to your friend saying, hey, I can't play basketball today. And at that point of time, your friend is already feeling quite upset with her mom, maybe because they've just had a fight. And the moment she reads your message, it's like, oh, she's rejecting me. She doesn't want to be my friend anymore. So it also depends on the receiver's mood. It depends on where the receiver is. The person who's listening to you, maybe they're in a very noisy place and you call them and they can't really hear what you're saying. There could be barriers at every single stage of the communication process. And that's what makes the communication process so very difficult. But like I said, communications is a skill and we can learn it. And it's important to learn it because finally, all of us want the same thing out of communication. We have the same purpose. We want to feel connected with other people because we are human beings, we are social animals. Even if some of us are introverts and we don't really feel like socializing all the time, but we still need that human connection. And those of us who are extroverts thrive on human connection and meeting people and talking to them. So we all need to feel connected. We all want to have good personal relationships, don't we? We want to have great relationships with our friends. We want to have friends in the first place. We want to have a good relationship with our teachers. When we start working, we want to have a good professional relationship, working relationship with our boss, with our colleagues. We all want that. Communications is basically the bedrock of relationships. There's other things as well, but communications is a fundamental relationship building block. And overall, with communications, you achieve what you want to achieve. That's how you achieve all your goals and your dreams in life. That's how you become successful, by communicating. So it is really an important skill, and it's worth spending some time with me today to learn some aspects of communication. My name is Shraboni Mazumder, and I am an educator with Unacademy. I teach courses on communication, on public speaking, and life skills. When I'm not teaching on Unacademy, I also interact with adults working within organizations to help them improve whatever it is that they want to. I have a lot of experience in this area and I have some thoughts that I really wanted to share with you guys. So stick around. Lots of stories coming up, lots of different kinds of examples coming up. Hopefully you will find this session fun as well as enlightening. Some kind of light bulbs. I do want them to go off in your head when you go through this. So keep writing it into the comments, whether you're watching the session live or you're watching the session later on. I will keep on checking the comments. So any questions that you have or any comments, do keep posting them. Today we are going to learn the ACE technique of communication because I promised you that I want to help you become a ACE communicator. What does ACE stand for? Well, how do you avoid assumptions? The second is, how do you clear misunderstandings? And the third is, how can you express yourself better? This is what we're going to talk about because this session is all about using communication to build better relationships as well as achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. Avoid assumptions, clearing misunderstanding, and expressing yourself. This is the ACE technique that we're going to talk about. Here I have flashed a little sentence on your screens for you. Have a look at that. And write it in the chat box. What is it you see? Now do it, please. Do it. Even if you're not watching it live. Just hold on. Don't progress yet. Write down what you see on the slide. I guarantee you, most of you will write something. Let's see if I get any responses here. What do you see written in the slide? And I've run this exercise across many people, and I found that most of the time, 90% of the time, people say it's what is written is a walk in the park. A walk in the park. That's what's written there. That's not quite correct, actually. If you now go back and have a look at it once again, you will see that the is repeated. So it says a walk in the park. Now, why did my brain assume that this is a walk in the park? That's what the writing is. That's because our brains are used to assumptions and shortcuts. And that's a survival mechanism, you see. When in prehistoric times, you would see a very vague shape in the distance, and that shape starts to come a little bit closer to you, and you realize it's quite shaggy, quite woolly, seems to have some pointed teeth as well. Comes closer and closer, and you realize in the distance is a woolly mammoth, this huge elephant, which was also quite dangerous. You don't stop to wait and analyze and say, okay, what should I do next? Let me think. You don't do that. Your brain says, run, this is danger, and you just run. So our brain makes these shortcuts and these assumptions because it's a survival instinct. And that's why you saw a walk in the park when it actually says a walk in the park. This is one of the main reasons for communication breaking down, for communications gaps to happen. We make shortcuts and assumptions. And this is what happened on that day in January 1977 when the plane crash happened. What happened that day was that the air traffic controller was talking to the captain of the KLM plane, and the air traffic controller was just giving the KLM captain some directions about which direction they need to go to, which runway, how the approach should be, all of these kind of things. And the captain assumed that these directions meant that he was cleared for takeoff. And so he pulled his plane out into the runway thinking he was cleared for takeoff, and the Pan Am plane landed at exactly that point of time. And the two crashed, and so many people died. That was a clear case of somebody making an assumption when somebody else was saying something different, and that led to a tragedy. Now, of course, most of the time, thankfully, when we have communication gaps and misunderstandings, it doesn't lead to tragedies like this, thank God. But it can lead to other kinds of things. You might end up, you may have a very dear friend, and then you have a fight, you have a misunderstanding due to some assumptions you made about each other's, and you don't talk for years. You lose contact with a friend, or you have a fight with somebody else, or you feel bad about something, all due to assumptions. Let me just illustrate this a little bit more, why this is a problem. I shared a little bit about myself right at the beginning of the session. What I didn't tell you is that I am a passionate baker. I'm not very good at it. I can do the basics, but I absolutely love doing it. So I've learned it, and I can churn out the basics, like I said. So few people ask me once in a while, will you teach us how to make brownies? And I say, yeah, sure, I'll teach you how to make brownies. And I start to tell them, this is how you should make brownies. And I say, well, you need to have flour, eggs, sugar, and oil, and a baking pan, right? Cocoa powder, of course. You must have all of these things. That's it. You're all set to make a brownie. If I just say this, they're just going to stare at me and say, well, that's not clear at all. That's clear as mud, because you didn't tell us how much flour, how much sugar. So I can do that. I can just tell them, well, you need to have half a cup of flour, half a cup of oil, 1 cup of sugar, half a cup of cocoa, 2 eggs, and you beat them all together and you put them in the pan, put them in the oven, and then voila, you have your brownie. Still not very clear. And whoever I'm teaching might say, but I didn't understand. What do I have to do first? Then what do I have to do? What happens typically in our communication is that we end up feeling frustrated that other people have not understood what I want to say. I might feel quite frustrated. I gave so many instructions. How is it this person doesn't really know how to make the brownie? I mean, what else do they want from me? And this happens more often than you can believe. Research has shown that we overestimate how much other people are comprehending, understanding what we are telling them. We go and give them some instructions, and then 7 days later, they haven't done what we asked, and we get so frustrated thinking, wasn't that obvious what I meant right there? And the other person is saying, no, it wasn't obvious at all. So you end up feeling frustrated. They end up feeling quite frustrated as well. This is called the signal amplification bias, and it sounds like a really big word, and there is a whole physics diagram on your slide as well. Don't be scared. I'm not going to teach you physics. Physics is one subject that I could never get a handle on, so I'm not going to show you physics. I just wanted to catch your attention. But signal amplification bias is basically a communications problem, and this means it's a tendency for all of us to assume that we have communicated more information to other people than we actually have. So I might just tell my twin brother, hey, don't come into my room. And I think, well, they shouldn't come into my room. But the next day they come into my room. And I'm thinking, hey, I just told you not to come into my room, yeah? And my twin brother might say, no, you said don't come into my room, but you didn't say that I couldn't come into your room at any point of time. I thought it only meant that I couldn't come into your room when you were studying, but right now you were free, your door was open, so I thought I could come into the room. And you're like, no, I meant don't come into my room without knocking. So, okay, fine, that's all right, I'll go off. And the next day, they just walk into your room again, and you're thinking, but I was so clear. And your brother says, No, you said not to come into your room without knocking, which obviously means that if your door is closed, then I should knock, but your door was open. So I just walked in. This is signal amplification bias. We think we've communicated, but the other person hasn't got a clue. And we are getting frustrated that we've already done all this communication and they don't know what we want. A lot of the times it could happen with your parents as well, where you say something like, I want a new pair of sneakers, and they just don't get you the new pair of sneakers, and you're wondering what happened. I thought I made myself clear I want a new pair of sneakers. You may not have communicated by when do you want the new pair of sneakers, what kind of new sneakers do you want, what is it for, what purpose will you use it for, is it for sports, is it for lifestyle, is it to just show off to your friends, what is the purpose for? We tend to not communicate as much as we think we do. And in order to minimize this, because if we do this, we assume that we have communicated more, what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of misunderstanding. So we need to minimize this error. So to do that, to avoid assumptions, the things that we can do is to ask questions and over communicate. So over communicate is like say it multiple times. If I say something in class, I may want to put it down on an email and send it to my teacher. So for example, I tell my teacher in class that, ma'am, next Monday, I will be absent because I have a doctor's appointment. And I assume my teacher has heard me, and that's an assumption. And then the next Monday, suddenly, your teacher is calling up your parents saying, what happened? Where is Monica? And you're like, but I told teacher in class that I'm not going to be here. This is again signal amplification bias. And the way to avoid it, when I say over communicating, I not only tell my teacher in class that I won't be there on the Monday, I also send an email after that to tell my teacher I won't be there. Asking questions. Questions are absolutely brilliant because they are a very powerful way to understand whether the other person has comprehended what is it that you want them to hear. This is very, very powerful. What kind of questions can you ask? Well, you can ask two types of questions. Open-ended questions or closed-ended questions. Now, what do open-ended questions mean? Open-ended questions are the questions which have a variety of answers. And I hope that you can all hear me as we go along. Open-ended questions are those which have a variety of answers. And closed-ended questions are those which have only one possible answer. Both of these are very useful to avoid assumptions and make sure our communication is heard. Closed-ended question, to ensure that the other person has heard you, would be something like, I hope you've understood. Have you understood? And they say, yes. Could you repeat what I just said? And they'll say, yes. And they'll start repeating. And you know that by their repetition, whether they've actually heard you or not. Is there something you would like me to clarify for you? That's a closed-ended question. And they can say, you know what, the first part of what you said was absolutely clear that you wanted the pair of sneakers, but you didn't tell us the second part, which is why you need the sneakers, by when you need it. Do you have any kind of brand in mind? What kind of sneakers are you looking for? Can you explain that? These are all closed-ended questions that you were asking. Have you understood me? Is there something I can clarify for you? And an open-ended question here would be, what do you think about what I just said? Open-ended. Anybody can answer whatever they like. What do you think about what I just said? This is an open-ended question. Would you like to, respond to what I just said and add on what your points of view are? Open-ended question. I have explained the way to make the brownie. What other information do you need to help you make the brownie? Open-ended question. The moment you do that, you know where are the gaps in the information and how you can fill that in. And that's how your communication, that's how you start avoiding assumptions and making your communication that much stronger to build relationships. But let's think a little bit deeper about assumptions and get more into why do assumptions happen in the first place. Here's a picture that I've put up for you. Have a look at this picture. It's a picture of a boy wearing spectacles. When you see a boy like this in real life, what do you think about the kind of person that this boy could be? And take a second to think about that. What kind of a person could this boy be if you met them in real life? This boy wearing spectacles. And a typical answer for this, what do I think about when I see a boy like this would be, oh, he's a very studious boy. He looks like a very serious boy. He looks like a very obedient boy because, his hair is nicely put down. He's wearing these spectacles. So he must be studying a lot. He must be staying up. So he must be a very good student. Probably gets A plus and everything, right? These are all the kinds of things that come into your head when you see a person. So the moment we see a person, we start to assume things about them. Here's another picture, and this time I put in a little bit of a contrast. You have a gentleman in a suit and you have a gentleman in a dhoti. When you look at a person in a suit, even before they start speaking, even before they say anything, you will assume a few things about them. You'll assume, wow, this person must be quite smart. He must be a good salesperson. He must be a good professional. He's probably somebody who's quite punctual. He looks very smart, so he must be very good in public speaking. You are just making these assumptions. You look at the other gentleman wearing a dhoti and you say, oh, this person is a very traditional person. He must be having very limited thinking. Probably he doesn't give a lot of freedom to his family. None of this is based on any fact because you don't know any of these people. These are just assumptions which our brain is making about the other people. You have another, and these are actually called biases. This particular type of assumptions is called biases. Bias is when we think of a person in a certain way just because of all the way that we've grown up, all the information that we've had before, without any factual evidence at all. These are called biases. We also have stereotypes. This is another kind of bias. Boys are supposed to wear blue. Girls are supposed to wear pink. If I'm a boy, I can't wear a pink sweater. Boys don't cry. Girls cry a lot. Boys are very strong. Girls are not strong. Girls love gossiping and talking to their friends. Boys love playing football. Just stereotypes. These are just stereotypes where you're just putting all the boys and all the girls in a bucket without thinking about their individual and what they like. I know girls who love football, who play football. I know boys who are as emotional as other girls. You know them as well. These are different kinds of biases, shortcuts again, about other people that our brains tend to make. Here are a few more. Very interesting bias is called the affinity bias. This is where you look at a person and they dress like you, they look like you, they talk like you, and you say, oh, this must be a very nice person because this person reminds me of myself. So anybody who's like me, I tend to immediately feel a connection with them. Somebody who doesn't dress like me, maybe I wear t-shirt and jeans all the time and I meet somebody who's wearing a salwar kameez, oh, she's not like me. Oh, she must be not cool. She must be, I'm very fun-loving. She must be not fun-loving. She must be serious. This is the affinity bias, where whenever I like somebody, I feel like they are like me, and I tend to make more of an effort to be with them. But when I don't like somebody, then I say, okay, I put all kinds of bad qualities on them because I don't like them. Another bias, which is very interesting, is the halo effect. And the halo effect is where, the angels have a halo, and the halo effect is exactly that. Somebody does something really well, and you put all kinds of other good qualities on that person. So they're a great public speaker, so they must be very good at managing people also. She's a very good student, so she's probably a very obedient person also. She always dresses very well, so she must be very well off. She must be very rich, and she probably has a lot of friends also. So you think one thing about a person, and you just tend to put a lot of other good things about that person. And the same thing goes for another effect called the horns effect. The horn is the halo is for the angel, the horn is for the devil. And you see something bad, maybe somebody came late to class and she comes late to class. She joins the Zoom meeting or whatever virtual class you're doing. Every day she's 5 minutes, 6 minutes late. And you say, oh, she's late every day. She must be a very lazy person. She must not clean her room. You start to think of all negative things about the person because one thing that they did wrong. There are plenty of other biases out there. If you're interested, search for them on the internet and you will get lots and lots of examples of biases. But let's come back to communication, because biases actually affect our communication. If I like somebody, I'll make an effort to communicate more with them. I will be more patient with them. I listen to them much more because, well, they're dressing well. I like people who dress well. I don't know them at all, but they're just dressing well, and I think that, they're like me. So I'm going to engage with them more. I'm going to listen to them more. This person is, she's wearing a salwar kameez and she's wearing a bindi, so she's likely to be a very close-minded person. There's no point talking to her about game playing. Obviously, she doesn't play games. What's the point? Maybe I'm not even going to talk to her about basketball. So you don't even make an effort. You do not make an effort in the conversation. You don't want to listen to them. You don't want to engage with them. Don't ask them questions. This is how biases affect communication, and biases are the reason for a whole lot of misunderstanding. And all about the Black Lives Matter movement that's going on in the US right now. And that's exactly to do with bias, where police officers might be feeling that black people are more likely to be criminals than white people. So whenever a black person does something even remotely wrong, something really, really small, or maybe they haven't even done anything wrong and they're just walking along on the road, a white police officer may tend to be more strict with them than they would be with a white person. It's just an example of bias which is operating at that point of time. And you can see this in operation every single place, just bias, all these beliefs that we have about another person or a group of people, which have no basis in fact. No basis in fact. So we have these biases which say Germans are very time oriented and they are very, very strict. And the Americans are very fat and lazy and they eat a lot of junk food. You have all the Japanese are very punctual and they're very strict also, just like the Germans, and they're very much rigid and rule bound and they love their tradition. These are just biases. Biases by themselves are not a problem. These are just assumptions. But the moment we treat somebody differently because of the bias that we have, it becomes a problem, especially in creating miscommunication. So how are you going to overcome this? Avoid assumptions. Well, just to summarize, ask more questions, engage more with the person. Even if you think your bias tells you this person is not interesting, engage with them, ask them questions, over communicate, do more and more of communication, and become aware of your biases. Once you become aware of them, you can work hard to overcome your biases. Is it that I tend to like people who are well dressed? Is it that I tend to like people who speak Hindi, and the moment people speak English, I feel alienated from them? I don't want to talk to them. Become aware of which is your particular bias, and then you can start to overcome them. I'm moving into the second section of my presentation. Remember, today is all about acing your communication skills, ACE. The first one we've already done, avoiding assumptions. Now we are moving on to the second one, which is the C. Here's another example for you, well, a little puzzle actually. An electric train is moving along at the speed of 60 kilometers per hour in the north direction. The wind is blowing at 20 kilometers per hour in the south direction. I am in a car moving parallel to the train at 40 kilometers per hour in the north direction. When will I see the smoke, and at what speed will the smoke pass my car window? Take a minute. It's quite complicated, isn't it? Take a minute to think about it. When will I see the smoke passing through my car window? As you're thinking and you're trying to do all kinds of complicated calculations, some of you may have figured out that there is no right answer to this one, and it is not really a calculation problem at all, right? I don't know how many of you figured this out, but if you did, congratulations, because you listened to me. And you listened to the first thing that I said, which was an electric train is moving along. An electric train doesn't have smoke at all. So this whole thing was a puzzle to test your listening skills. Were you listening to me or not? One of the main communication barriers is that we do not listen enough. And in order to clear misunderstanding, this is one of the first things that we must do. We must start listening more. So this is the second aspect of ACE, which is clear misunderstandings. Let's see how we can do that. Like I said, the first thing is to listen. What a beautiful saying this is from Larry King. I remind myself every morning, nothing I say this day will teach me anything. So if I'm going to learn, I must do it by listening. That's the power of listening. You do not learn by saying stuff, because this is all stuff that you already know in your head. You only learn about people, about things by listening to other people. This is very, very important. So listening is equal to learning. Listening creates relationships, and listening makes the other person feel valued. There is a story about a little boy who went out to a restaurant with his parents and some friends of his parents. So there was quite a few people in that restaurant. Everybody was talking among themselves, greeting each other, very happy to all be together. And the waitress came along to take the orders. As the waitress was taking orders, she started at the top of the table. She took the orders of some of the adults, and she came to the little boy. The boy is about 10 years old, very sweet little boy, little shy. And the waitress looked at the boy and said, "So what would you like today?" And the boy said, "Oh, I would like a burger, please, a chicken burger." The moment he said this, his mother from the top of the table said, "No, no, no, he's not going to have a burger. He's going to have a salad." The waitress ignored the mother, looked at the boy, said, "Would you like some fries with that?" The boy said, "Yes, I would love some fries." The mother from the top of the table again says, "No, no, fries are not allowed. He doesn't want any fries. I know that he loves mashed potatoes, so he's just going to have some mashed potatoes." The waitress doesn't look at the mother again, and she keeps focusing on the boy, and she asks him, "Would you like something to drink?" The boy says, "I would love a Coke, please, with lots of ice." The waitress takes his order, looks at him, smiles, and says, "I'll be right back with what you ordered. Burger, fries, and Coke. Is that right?" And the boy says, "Yes, that's absolutely right." And the waitress finishes taking the other people's orders, and she walks away. And the boy turns to his parents and says, "Mom, Dad, I think she sees me. I think she knows I'm here." This is the power of listening. Just by listening to a person, you can make them feel like they exist. This is one of the basic things in human interaction. People want to know that I exist for other people, that other people see me. This is very, very important. Listening is one of the most fundamentals of building a good relationship through communication. When we think about communication, most of the time we focus on how we are speaking, how we are doing public speaking, whether we are showing confidence, whether our vocabulary is good. We tend to do all of these things. What we forget is that communication is much more about listening than about speaking. What's the reason that we don't listen? Well, there are quite a few actually. One of them is that we tend to speak slower than we listen. So we speak at about 225 words a minute, but we can listen at 450 words a minute. So as I'm speaking, you might be listening to me, but you have all this space in your brain, almost almost double, 225 to 450, well, exactly double. So you have space to listen to 225 more words. And you fill up this time by thinking about what you're going to say, or you fill up this time thinking about something else. And because your brain has so much space inside, it stops you from focusing on me and just focusing on listening to what I'm trying to say. So the speed of speaking and the speed of hearing is one of the biggest reasons why people do not listen as much as they do, as much as they should actually, right? Another reason why we don't listen to people is because of our ego. I'll explain this through an example, through a little demo. And I imagine that you're in front of me, and I start telling you, "Hey, I got this pair of glasses for you. See this? How beautiful they are. I got them especially for you. Would you like to use them? Please use them." And you might tell me, "But I don't wear glasses. I don't need glasses." "No, but I got them especially for you. How is it that you don't want them?" I went to the shop and I got this lovely pink, dark pink color, and I made sure they were really light. Come on, I spent so much effort on choosing these glasses for you. How is it that you don't want them?" And you might say, "No, but I don't need it. I don't wear glasses. If I wear glasses with power, they're going to make my eyes hurt." Oh, come on, yeah. I'm feeling so hurt. I tried so much, and you're just not taking the glasses that I got for you. Come on, you have to take them. I spent so much money on it. You have to take it. The glasses example shows you most of the time what we think that what we have to say, what we have to offer is much more important than what the other person is saying. So if I start saying something and it's my opinion, my idea, just like a glass, the glass here represents my opinion or my idea, I am so fascinated by my own opinion. I think we should do it this way. Then I forget to listen to what the other person is saying. Just like right now in this example I did, the other person was saying, I don't need them. Well, I don't listen to you. I got it for you, so you have to take them. We think what we have to say is much more important than what the other person has to say. So whenever you are in a situation, maybe you're in a discussion with lots of groups of friends together, and you are asking, okay, what movie do we want to all see? And you say, I want to see the new Avengers movie, I want to see the new Wonder Woman movie. And one of your other friends says, hey, I've already seen it. Can we not see it? You say, no, but I want to see it. I want to see it. And this is very important for me to see it because I heard great reviews. But I already saw it. I'm not so interested. No, I want to see it. This is where ego stops us from listening. The third aspect is that whenever we are in a conversation, we love talking about ourselves. This is one of the biggest reasons that we do not listen. We just love the sound of our own voice. Next time that you are talking to a friend, I want you to observe yourself. How much do you speak and how much do you listen? And out of 100% of the time, let's say you have a half an hour conversation, do you speak 20 minutes and listen just 10 minutes? Or is it the other way around? So observe yourself the next time and become aware of how much you are talking and how much you are actually listening. Okay, so this is what we've done so far. We've talked about avoiding assumptions. We've started to talk about clearing misunderstanding by listening. Now, all that I've been saying about listening is listening to the words of the other person. But there is another aspect of listening, very interesting, and that's listening to the body language. That's right. Now, I teach a lot of courses where I'm talking about the body language that we should be showing. But here, I'm going to teach you how to read the body language of the other person, because that's a part of listening. It's a part of building relationships. When you're in a discussion with somebody, you have to focus on what their body says so that you can understand fully what message they are communicating. So they might be smiling, but there could be other things which are giving you a signal that this person is not very happy right now. Let's get into that right now, because this is, for me, so interesting, reading body language. One thing that you can see is where their eyebrows are. So if eyebrows are like this, raised, as you can see, like this, raised, somebody is looking at you like this, raised eyebrows, it means that they're not very comfortable with what you're saying. They may not even be agreeing. So this is like doubt. Okay, so look at the eyebrows. So we start with the eyebrows first. Okay, listen to the volume of their voice. If they're just speaking in a very, yeah, sounds good, yeah, continue, I'm listening to you. Yes, yeah, very good idea, lovely idea. Very monotonous, flat voice, they are not listening to you. Just as you could make out from my voice just now that I was not interested, not listening. When voice goes up and down, like I'm doing just now, if I'm doing it as a response to you and I say, oh, wow, that's a really good idea. Okay, do you want to listen to explain that a little bit more? You see what I did? I raised it and I lowered it. Modulation, taking your voice up and down, is a very good way of showing or figuring out whether the other person is listening to you or not. Third one is eye contact, simplest one. If they're looking at you, then they are probably interested in what you're saying. But if they're looking away like this, or they're looking into their phone, well, obviously they're not interested in what you're saying. And at that point of time, you need to change your communication tactic. On the other hand, however, be careful if they're staring too much, like this, into your eyes, just staring. One, they could be completely distracted. They're just looking at you, but they're thinking of something completely different. Okay? Or they might be lying. Now, why do we say this? Because, a few years ago, people started to discover the science of body language. And about 30 years ago or so, one of the ways that the police could tell whether a person was lying was by looking at their eye contact. And they said if a person is not making eye contact and they're looking down or they're looking sideways or they're looking up while they're speaking, they're most probably lying. So others caught on to that very quickly. And so what then started happening is that if a person was lying, but they wanted to show that they are not lying, they would then make really good eye contact. So eye contact became not such a good judge of whether person was lying or not. In fact, if somebody is looking at you like this, unblinking for a very long time while they're speaking, they might not be telling you the complete truth. Yeah, I'm telling you, this new class that I'm doing is wonderful. Yeah, super class. Yeah, you should also join. You should also join. Maybe your friend is really unhappy in the class and he just wants to share the misery. Be careful of that. Now you can go a little bit down. If somebody's legs are crossed, it's a sign of resistance. So you may be talking to them, but they're probably not hearing what you want them to hear. They are probably disagreeing with you. So crossed arms, crossed legs, anything which is crossed is a question, is a signal of defensiveness. They don't want to agree with you. They don't want, maybe not saying it, but they're uncomfortable with what you're saying. And if their leg is moving like this, a lot of people just move their legs while they're listening to you. That means they're quite impatient as well. It's like, get on with it, get on with it. I have something to say. Let's look at the other side now of the screen. How do you know that they are interested and they are listening to you? If somebody is mirroring your body language, what does that mean? Mirroring means that if you start to move forward to talk to them, they also move forward. Okay, I'm interested, I'm listening to you. And then you move back and you're saying something like, you're thinking like this, and your friend also moves back and they're doing this. You nod, they nod. You smile, they smile. And every single person does it quite unconsciously. When they're agreeing with you, when they're interested in you, most people will mirror your body language, not intentionally, they'll just do it unconsciously. So whether they're mirroring or not is a good way of figuring out whether whether you're able to connect with somebody. If you find that the other person is not mirroring what you're doing, if they have the crossed arms and the crossed legs, it's likely a sign that they're not listening to you. Look for crinkles around the eyes when somebody is smiling. If the smile is just like this, see my eyes, nothing is happening. It's not a genuine smile. If I smile and I get these crinkles around my eyes, and it's a genuine smile. So a false smile versus a genuine smile, very, very easy to figure out, right? So these are all the signals. There's so many signals that you can read from a person, even when you're speaking or when they are speaking. And this is a huge part of communication, because their body is sending you all these signals about how they are feeling, how they're reacting to you, whether they're getting uncomfortable with what you're saying, whether they're going to fight with you just now, whether they're agreeing with you. All these signals are coming at you all the time, constantly, as you are in an interaction. Not like the interaction I'm doing right now with you, where I can't see you, I can't see your body language, but where you can see the other person. And how do you use this knowledge? Well, whenever you see that somebody is not agreeing with you or getting irritated or getting impatient, you can then stop and say, hey, I think I've spoken for long enough. Would you like to say something at this point of time? Give them a chance. Adapt. If you think that a person is agreeing with you, that's a cue for you to continue and to talk more and more, because they're agreeing with you. So this is how you use the body language cues as well to modify your communication so that the misunderstandings don't happen so much. All right. There is a huge amount that you can read up on body language, and you can learn about body language. I've done some sessions on body language. Catch those on the Unacademy platform. Otherwise, even on the internet, there's a lot of resources available to teach you about how to read another person's body language. Keep all of this in mind. This is the second part of being an ace, which is, how do I clear misunderstandings? Two things. Listen. As you are listening, also listen to the body language. Listen to the words, listen to the body language as well. So this is two parts that are done. Now we are moving on to the third aspect of ACE, which is expressing yourselves, expressing ourselves. You go to a restaurant, you order, well, burger and fries. I just gave you the burger and fries example that's stuck in my head now. And you get a burger, but you don't get fries, you get potato wedges, and you don't really like potato wedges. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Some of us are just gonna keep quiet and just say, it's okay, yeah, let's not cause a scene. It's fine. I'll just have the wedges one day. It won't hurt me, but I won't come back to this restaurant again. Another person might call the waiter and just say, this is unacceptable. How can you serve me wedges when I ordered fries? This is, they'll create a big scene. They'll call the waitress and they'll say, I don't accept it. Take it back. Give me a new plate of burger and fries and make sure this is fries and make sure these are fresh fries. Otherwise, I'm never coming back. What a horrible service. Now, which one do you think is correct? Another trick question, because neither is correct. Not reacting isn't correct. Overreacting is also not correct. What is correct is to express yourself in the right way, and that is called being assertive. Where if I'm uncomfortable with something, if I'm upset about something, I'm able to tell you that I'm upset about it, but I do it in the right way. I do it in such a way that it doesn't hurt you, but I don't keep quiet about it, right? That is being assertive. This is what being assertive means. The story about two neighbors, Simon and Tom. Simon and Tom were great friends and they were great neighbors as well. Now, Tom was the quieter person and Simon was the more vocal person. They lived together for many years side by side, different houses. They used to get along fairly well. One day, Simon was leaving for an interview, and as he was walking past Tom's house, a piece of paper fluttered out of his pocket and just dropped on the pavement just in front of Tom's gate. Tom saw this. And Tom didn't, say anything because he was a quieter person. He didn't say anything. He felt a little upset about it. And he picked up the paper and he put it in the dustbin. The next day, as Simon was going off to another appointment, another piece of paper fell out of his pants pocket and fluttered in front of Tom's gate. Now, Tom is getting really upset, but he's not saying anything about it. And this happens 3 or 4 times. And then Tom gets so upset that one day what he does, he takes all the rubbish which was in his house from the trash cans. And he goes and in the middle of the night goes and dumps all that rubbish from his house, garbage, in front of Simon's house, in front of Simon's gate. Simon wakes up in the morning and he sees all this garbage in front of his house and he gets really upset and he knows it's Tom who's done it. Because there's no other houses around, these are neighbors. So he decides, oh my god, I'm going to retaliate. There's no way I'm going to stand for this. How can Tom do this? And so he was building a house somewhere else and he had a lot of concrete and cement and old bricks and soil and lots of this horrible kind of garbage. So he gets a truck full of that garbage and he dumps this whole truck full of garbage in front of Tom's gate. Tom is furious because he can't even walk out of his gate because he has this mountain of garbage in front of his gate. And so this now starts to escalate. Tom gets a huge band who come and start playing very loud music in front of Simon's house in the middle of the night, waking up Simon. Simon starts to let off fireworks in the middle of the night. They start to it just escalates. It becomes more and more horrible. Just bigger and bigger fights start happening. And they're not talking to each other. They're just doing these things. One day, it reaches a peak. And that day what happens is that Simon gets some explosives. Now, he actually got these explosives thinking that they were quite small and he just wanted to give Tom a shock as he was walking his dog. He would just set up this little cracker and it would explode and Tom would just get surprised and startled. And maybe Tom's dog would get startled and run away and what fun that would be for me. That's what Simon thinks. And as he tries to do that, what happens? He doesn't realize that he's, by mistake, got a fairly big bomb. And that bomb goes up and both of them are injured. And they both go to hospital. And they're coincidentally put in the same room in the hospital, 2 different beds. Takes them a few days to recover, but they're still in the hospital. And because they're, just the 2 of them there, nobody else is there, there's no TV in the hospital, they start to talk to each other. And they realize, after a few days of talking, that it all started with that little piece of paper falling out of Simon's pant pocket. And as they start to discuss it, Simon says, oh, I didn't do it intentionally. It just happened that my pants pocket had a big hole and the paper fell out of it. I didn't even realize. 3 days later, my wife told me that you have a hole and then, she patched it up so it didn't happen again. Is that why you are so mad at me? Is that why you started? And Tom says, yes. And then they feel so sad that neither of them went and talked to each other about it. If Tom had just gone to Simon and said, "Hey, why are you dropping pieces of paper in front of my gate?" Simon would just have said, "Oh, am I doing that? Oh, there must be a hole in my pocket." And nothing else would have happened. Nothing else would have happened. All the disturbances they created, ending up with them being in the hospital, nothing else would have happened. This is called being assertive, where you go and tell the other person that you are feeling unhappy about something, or this is what you want. This is called being assertive. When somebody treats you badly, when they're fighting with you, they're not maybe talking to you, they're sulking, or you try to say that I want to go for this movie, I want to do this, and every single time your friend rejects your idea, every time you call your friend to play basketball, he says no, but every time he calls you to play basketball, he expects that you will come down immediately. You feel bad about these things, but you don't say it out loud. And most of us have this problem where we feel bad about some things, but we don't say it out loud, either in a restaurant, with friends, with parents, with teachers, with siblings, anybody. And there's many reasons why we don't do that. One is that we don't want to be unpopular. If I say something, I'll be unpopular. Another reason is that I don't want to make a mistake. Maybe it was all a misunderstanding. Another reason is that how can I tell my parents and my teacher? They're senior people. I can't tell them that I felt bad. What they did was wrong. Another reason is a very lack of confidence. Most of it, in fact, is lack of confidence. My point may not be good enough. Let me not say it in front of everybody. And the fifth one is I don't even know how to be assertive. And you can have a look at this and try to identify for yourself which one or two of these apply for you. And then you can start to work on it, because it's very, very important if you're going to be an ace in communication, to build good relationships, remember, personal as well as professional, and to be able to get forward in life and to achieve the kind of things that you want to do, to say your say. And you might wonder, well, actually keeping quiet and not telling people when they've hurt me is a good way of building relationship, because I'll be very popular, everybody will like me. Well, the thing is, they might like you today, but they may not respect you. They may not listen to you. You might get bullied. You might get trodden over. And definitely not a good way to build professional relationships, because you do have to stand up for yourself. If you're in college and there's a group assignment which has been given by your professor, and there are 5 members in the group, 3 of them just go off to watch a movie and they say, "Hey, can the 2 of you finish off for us? Yeah, we're just too busy. We're just too cool to do any of this group project. Yeah, you guys can continue doing it." If you don't tell them that, "Sorry guys, that's not on, because the professor said all 5 of us have to work on it. It's not fair that the 2 of us work on it, because we have other stuff to do as well." What's going to happen is you might end up doing the project, but you will feel so resentful and so angry. And at one point of time, you will burst out. The anger will just come out. And you might start hitting each other, punching. You might do all those kinds of things. Or you might get so angry one day that it'll just burst out, right? Inappropriately. It's very important to be able to express our feelings and our opinions at the right time, in the right way. Not to be aggressive, which is to start shouting at people and say, "Hey, you're not listening to me, or you have to listen to me." Or to be very passive, where I just keep quiet. But be assertive. Say what you have to say it in the right way. This is very, very important. So we've covered all the aspects of ACE so far. We've talked about communications being quite difficult, even though we are doing it all the time, because there are so many different aspects of communications. And at each point, each part of the communications model, there could be barriers. Either you as a sender are not clear enough, or the person who's receiving is not in the mood. Something could happen to just derail the communication. But communication is essential, because we want to build good relationships. We want to feel connected to people, and we want to achieve what we want in life. If you want to have that kind of, if you have this kind of aim and this kind of purpose, what you really need to do, avoid assumptions and biases. And how do you do this? Because biases and assumptions are affecting our communications, creating barriers in our mind where we don't want to engage with somebody. We don't listen to some people because we have some assumptions about them. You ask questions. You ask questions to clarify whether people have understood what it is that you're trying to say, and you avoid that signal amplification bias. And you also ask questions to understand the other person a little bit more. What kind of interest do you have? Do you like playing basketball? What do you enjoy doing? Where do you come from? You're asking questions to get to know the other person so that you don't have these biases in your mind. You also ask questions to clarify whether they've understood. Have you understood what I'm trying to say? Do you have any questions for me at this point of time? Which part of this would you like me to explain a little bit more? These are the kind of questions that I would ask my students at the end of a class to make sure they've understood what I'm saying. And this is the kind of questions you should ask as well. The second part of is clear misunderstandings. How do you clear misunderstandings? Because misunderstandings are so common. Very simply by listening. And I say simply, but listening is actually quite hard to do because we have so many things which keep us from listening. Our ego, the fact that we listen at a faster rate than we speak, and the fact that we love speaking. But listening is very, very important because it makes a person feel valued. And you learn a lot just by listening. It's a fundamental communication behavior which improves your relationships. Another part of listening is to listen to body language as well. And we did a little quick exercise on how to identify from head to toe what a person is saying just simply based on their body language, whether they're agreeing with you, whether they're feeling comfortable with you, whether they are getting angry, whether they're getting irritated, whether they're listening to you. All of these signals you can get just from looking at their body language. And we ended today by saying that expressing yourself is supremely important. Whenever you're in a communication scenario, whenever you're in any kind of relationship scenario, make sure that you say your say. Whatever you're feeling, whatever your ideas are, your opinions are, whatever you have to say your say, but say it in the right way. Don't be aggressive, which means that you don't worry about the other person. You just start to yell and scream, maybe use bad language. That's being aggressive. Like the example I gave you with the waiter and the French fries and the wedges. Or be passive, where you just hide everything. You don't tell anybody anything. Builds up a whole lot of resentment inside you. The other person doesn't know what's happening. Communication just breaks down. Express yourself, but in an assertive manner, in the right way. I hope you enjoyed this class. If you did, there is plenty of other classes like this on Creative Corner. Not only am I here with effective communication, public speaking, life skills kind of classes, but there is a storytelling class, there is Vedic maths, there is robotics, negotiation, doodling, magic tricks. My God, that sounds so interesting. If you use my code, that's right there on the screen, and it's also there in the description, you will get a 10% discount. That's great, isn't it? So use it right now and get a 10% discount. I also want to encourage you to record a short video. Doesn't need to be long, and you can see some examples of videos we have at the bottom of the screen. 1 minute, 4 minutes, 2 minutes, short video. If you can make these videos and upload it on the YouTube channel Creative Corner by Unacademy, you have a chance to get featured as a star creator. And it's for public viewing, so other people can view it. They can leave likes, and I will view it as well. And I can leave some likes and some comments. Would love to hear from you. A video, creative video, uploaded on the YouTube channel Creative Corner by Unacademy. Topic for today's video is your top tips for communication to build relationships. Communication to build relationships. What are your top tips? 2 or 3 things that you learned from this class, which I would love to hear from you in the form of a video. Please put that up, and the link for the video is also in the descriptions. This is how you have to submit it. You utilize this form, and the form link is also there in the description to upload your video. In January, very exciting month in our academy. Creative Corner's January Carnival is on every day from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock and 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. There are free classes, yes, absolutely free for you to attend. And all those fun topics that I just told you, doodling, robotics, magic tricks, web development, so many different kinds, all completely free, 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. See if you can check in at that point of time and learn something new. You can also join the Unacademy Telegram group. And the link is again there in the description below. If you join the group, you can ask questions about Creative Corner, you can give feedback, suggest some changes, and receive updates from the team directly. So it's one way of you staying connected to us, and we'd love for you to be connected to us on 31st of January, special event from 9 a.m. onwards. Creative Corners time out. Learn creative thinking, problem solving from amazing educators. Lots of sessions on that day. There is chess, there is coding, there's robotics, there's magic, there's Excel, poetry, app creation. Wow, it's a full day of fun and learning. That's all there on the 31st of January, 9 a.m. onwards. The timetable is right up there on your screen. I hope you will check out not just one, but all of these classes. So this is what we want you to do. So many different things that you can do and engage with us. I hope you enjoyed this session, and remember to send in your comments and your questions. I would love to hear from you. Till next time, I am here saying bye-bye.